Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of November 11th through 17th, and our three main events: Venus going into Capricorn, and what I mentioned in the monthly big switch with Saturn going direct. And then this week we've got a very intense full moon in Taurus, exactly conjunct Uranus. So that's what I'm going to talk about mainly, a couple other little things, and just a little business first. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that I do every week on YouTube. If you have a YouTube account and you like what you see, please become a follower, and don't forget to turn on your notifications when you do that, and they'll let you know when the blog comes up every week. And also, it was a podcast long before it was a YouTube channel. So if you just want the audio portion of it, like you're at the gym or driving around and you don't really have the thing for the video, it is available out there on all kinds of podcasts. Look up the Astrological Winds channel. You should be able to find it out there. Buzzsprout puts it out. A number of them pick it up. It's also available on Instagram. The Astrological Winds channel has its own page there, and it'll show up in your newsreel when I post it. And sometimes I do post some extra stuff on Instagram. I haven't been doing much lately there, but I sometimes do that is only exclusive for that. And then also it shows up on my private Facebook page. It's just Matthew with two T's, Lawton, Lauten. If you want to friend me there, it'll come up in your newsreel every week there. And then the other best spot to find it is right on my website, actually, www.astrologicalwinds.com. I embed it on a blogs page. So you see the blogs tab on top, and you hit that, and it has not only this blog from this week, but it'll have the blogs from the past few weeks, at least past few months, and even the annual one if you need to go back and refer to any of that stuff. I leave them up there for a while. And also, while you're there, hit the calendar tab. I have a little calendar I do every week that talks about some of the old traditional Earth holidays, things like that, that day is, an astronomical data that's going on for the week too. So that's always a fun little thing to check out. And also then check out my menu. If you're, best way to support me, I'm a professional astrologer. I've been doing this for over 20 years, doing readings after 7 years of training and schooling. And just like, I'd love to do your chart. I'd love to do someone else's chart that you might know who's looking for a professional astrologer to do their chart. So if you check out the website, you'll see my menu there. And, and then the prices are there, and I can work with you. If your finances are tight, just let me know. We can talk about that. Don't be shy. Contact is there too. The email, in case you don't want to go that far, is matthue823@gmail.com. And also, if you have a group that's looking for some kind of workshop, class, lecture, something like that, I have different things I offer there. Also, students, I have a couple people who are interested in being like live students, possibly, but I need 2 more to do that. Otherwise, there are some classes available via recordings and stuff too. And then the other way, really, to support the blog is I ask everyone to pass the link on when they're done. Since it's a free service, it actually costs me some money to put the blog out. So it's a free service to you. I would really love for you to find someone, even if you've done it before, to pass the link on to. I'd really appreciate that. If you do want to give just a donation to the blog, I won't say no to that either. No amount is too small. If you even want to just give $5, I enter you as in a chance in a raffle to win a free reading. And here's you can either hit me at Venmo at Matthew-Lawton, or Cash App, $Matthew Lawton. And I really appreciate anyone who's ever given. I know some of you have done that repeatedly. Really appreciate that. So thanks so much for all that. And yeah, let's get into this blog here. So, post-election in the US. And so got some things, the first thing I want to mention is today on Monday, and I've been talking about this for a month now. And I even mentioned a couple weeks ago how it had its second exact hit because Jupiter had just gone retrograde when the first hit in mid-October. And that's Jupiter sextiling Chiron. And I really think this is really probably the most positive aspect that's been going on for quite a while, especially as a big one in the background, because it gives us new understandings. It gives us new ways to see things, new ways to learn about things. The information coming in widens our perspective, makes us more tolerant, um, helps us to like, see things in a different light. So there's new learning going on, and that new learning feels very healing in many ways. So that in general, and I've talked about this several times in the past blogs, so you can check out that more. But the point I want to make is here on Monday, the sun in Scorpio is going to be quincunxing that that sextile between Jupiter and Chiron. So it's going to be like quincunx both Jupiter and Chiron, which means it's on the long midpoint of Jupiter Chiron sextile. And to me, this is what really a thing about like there's a lot of like positive energy that's been injected into these new way, into seeing things in a new way, into like getting new understandings, getting new learning, widening our perspective, like that kind of thing, which is bringing, like I said, brings in all this kind of healing. But it can also give us a little bit swell-headed in a way where we think like, where we can actually like all of a sudden be like, oh, well, I really can see how things are, and get like arrogant and self-righteous and make promises maybe that we can't keep, things like that. So this is really requiring an adjustment of attitude even while this is going on, that we don't go overboard, that we don't make promises that we can't keep, that we don't like all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, I've got this grand vision. I've got this big plan. I'm going to change all these things, right? And then we don't have the details worked out, or we're sloppy with the details where all of a sudden, oh, I'm promising this, that, or the other thing, right? And actually you've never actually really thought about how you're going to get from point A to point B. You're just kind of making the promise. So now all of a sudden, when you're like being called on that to explain how that work is going to work, you come across as being sloppy, as being unprepared, as being like not really ready to do that. So that's one of the key things in this, is adjusting the attitude immediately about this grander vision that you have, and refining that and realizing, hey, I'm going to actually have to put in to get out. Like, I can't just sit here back on my laurels and think this is all going to work out really great now because I have this new vision, right? It's like, no, you're going to have to be ready to work on that stuff. And if you have the right attitude, this is just kind of one of those amazingly, in certain ways, fateful kind of energies, that where if you do have the right attitude, you'll know exactly what to do at the right key times. It may actually almost seem like a stroke of luck has come your way, right? Because you did do the things you had to do. You didn't go beyond. You didn't get like pompous about what you think, and get like overly optimistic, and, and getting really pushy and self-righteous about it. So, that, like I said, it really comes down to that. Like, it really like having that right attitude, and, making these adjustments based on that. And then all of a sudden, wow, yeah, like a lot of really good things can happen out of this. You can really have some strokes of good luck come your way. You can really have things fall into a flow where you're like, wow, that really paid off, and it is meeting some of my grander vision, and it is bringing in some really personally good feeling stuff. But if you're just adopting some tone because you had a grander vision, and you really don't have any of the details worked out, and you think you're going to fake your way, or bombast your way through it, then the fate thing will turn the other way on you, and it ain't gonna work out. You're gonna be caught basically with your pants down, like pretty much, like, whoops, didn't really have that all prepared, even though I was talking it out. And so also on Monday, big switch this week, Venus into Capricorn. So when the goddess of love goes into Capricorn, she's not very happy. I'll be honest with you guys. She really is not happy. Capricorn is a stoic, more unemotional sign, and and it's a little bit too unemotional for Venus to feel comfortable there. She's like, so we get more into like the aspects of relationships that are more based on a practical, sober level. In all honesty, it's hard for Venus to find joy in Capricorn like she normally does through relationships. Everything seems to be really serious, you know. Everything seems to be like having to deal with some practical thing, having to deal with some, you know, structural or methodical thing, you know, that like doesn't really have a lot of room for joy and happiness in there. And you know, one thing that can be good, one relationship that can be good when Venus is in Capricorn is getting advice from older, wiser people, like in things that are disturbing to you. They may have some wisdom, and we actually may be finally in the right frame of mind to actually listen, which, you know, is really a skill that's been lost, you know, for the most part by most of us in this society, you know. So, like, Venus and Capricorn will seek out the advice of those who are older or wiser in some way. Now, to be honest with you guys, you know, there's a lot of stuff showing that like really tighten the belts economically. Venus in Capricorn is the need to be thrifty with our money, with our resources, with our assets, the need to be conservative, to not be frivolous at all, to be very careful with your decision making processes with money right now, and definitely with investments too. Be really careful with that stuff. Don't get risky is like a good way to say it. And you know, moderation at the most should be like as far as you go with risking stuff. And then the other thing about Venus and Capricorn, you know, Venus is one of the emotional planet. So like she really keeps her emotions close to her vest in Capricorn. You know, there's a lot of judgment going on inside of others and situations, but not really communicating that out. And a lot of it can be coming from like needing to be prepared to be more practical, thrifty, realistic about not only money but relationships themselves, you know. So very not the easiest week for relationships. That is one of the big key points of this week. So then on Tuesday we have a Mercury square Saturn. Okay. And this is definitely very sobering intellectually. This is like the energy of seeing like the flaws in everything with your intellect. So it can be depressing. It can feel like, you know, there's a lot of things not right and that a lot of mistakes need to be corrected. And so like it can get us in a negative kind of viewpoint intellectually, you know, like mentally, like we're just seeing the glass as half empty, and just and but it does give the gift of like what I call being the editor, where since you can see these flaws and everything so easily, it's a good day to just slowly go through things and correct the mistakes. And I honestly think this is best done alone on a Mercury square Saturn day. Communications are very difficult with Mercury square Saturn. People just kind of are coming from a negative space. So they're very hard to please, and it's very easy to just get into disagreements where both sides basically just shut down, you know, is a good way to say it. But yeah, like, you know, our minds are really on practical things, but we can see, like I said, where there's been a lot of mistakes, things like that. And now in the business world too, this usually means delays, the inability to hammer out an agreement right now, yeah, things like that. So not the easiest day on Tuesday either. It can be you know, or it can be a little bit like, whoa, taking some of that Venus and Capricorn and kind of like getting like really into like, and really it's best, you know, to work alone, like I said, you know, just, use that editing skill and work alone, try to keep like that. But I really think the relationship stuff is really going to start to get even more intense on Thursday, because I mean, to me, this is one of those moments where astrology, and I mean, I have these moments every day, really, when I'm looking at astrology, but this is one of those moments where, an aspect is defining what's going on so succinctly that you have to just be like, whoa, okay, like astrology, like, so right on, So Thursday, there's an extremely bumpy Venus quincunx Mars. And so let's talk about the battle of the sexes, ladies and gentlemen, because if there's an aspect that represents the battle of the sexes, it's Venus quincunx Mars. And I just find that, like, why I find that so succinct right now is the post-election debris that's going on, where we have one side that's like B4 movement, the woman's side, right? I'm just going to cut you off. And then we got the other side saying, your body, my choice movement. So we got these two extremes really playing this out. And the quincunx is no connection at all. Not being able to find anything to agree upon. So this is really, really bumpy. This is an apex point of the extremity between, the people who are backing up the equality or power of the female versus like the male having all the control. And where do you meet in the middle? And the quincunx requires adjustments, and adjustments, it's plural, like not one side adjusting to the other. So really what this does, once again, Venus, right, an emotional planet, brings very intense emotions up, really intense emotions, and you project them on the opposite sex. So if you're a woman, you're going to project them on a man, right? And if you're a man, you're going to be projecting them on a woman. So that's what is really going on. And the thing is, we got to be really careful under this too, because the universe works in very funny ways. We may let in the very people into our lives that are going to cause us a lot of turmoil for both ourselves and them, and we will manifest this energy, right? This is not going to be an easy one. And what's really interesting is Venus, which is at 4 degrees Cap, is actually square the nodal axis exactly that day too. That is one of the aspects of separation, the ending of relationships. That like, I am not going to oblige or please you anymore. I'm done, right? That's the energy of this day and this week for relationships, you guys. And I think, in the United States, we're really seeing it come out in the political theater, so gonna require some serious adjustments, or there's gonna be some really bumpy, awkward energy to deal with in this, And so then comes Friday, and Friday has this massive change of Saturn going direct in Pisces that I talked about in the monthly at length. So I'm not going to talk about it at length again. You're going to go back to the monthly if you missed it, and you really should. If you missed it, you need to go back and check that out. And I think that's in last week's blog. So once again, get to the website and check that out, because this is a huge shift. And once again, I just want to make a comment on this one, right? Post-election comment, right? Saturn in Pisces, like I said, is like people being stuck to a structure of a belief system, right? And like taking it to blind fanaticism that gets so rigid that the structures they built that belief system around are actually falling apart around them, and they're unwilling to actually take a look at that and let go of the beliefs and adjust it. And at the same time, Pisces is a dualistic sign, the two fish swimming away from one another. There's an opposite side seeing it the other way. Does this sound like the United States? And like I said last week, there's no mandate here. This country is divided in half. Now, Saturn is one of the two social planets. And Pisces is all about fanatical beliefs. But they're connected to tail. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, this is one country, and like that reality seems to have been lost upon us. And so with Saturn going direct, the winners of this election are perceiving that as they have a mandate on, what where places are going, but it's a dualistic sign. It's pretty equal. And the structures are falling apart in society for both parties, for everybody. So if they can't figure it out and readjust the things, and what did I say about Saturn going direct? It's about taking a look at those beliefs that are holding you back, and you're holding yourself back if you're stuck to them. It doesn't matter whether they were downloaded into you by whatever news or whatever you do, whatever you watch, whatever way you were brought up, they're holding you back, and collectively holding everybody back. And like blinding us fanatically, and then not seeing the ability of like the unity of a country in this case, like that's supposed to be like operating together. So in your life, while Saturn's going direct, that's what you need to look at. Is, like I said last week, it's like the structures and forms in your life that are failing you, both abstract and concrete, because your own belief systems have you stuck there. And you're still trying to use old ways of making it believe that it's going to happen again. And that's just blind fanaticism. And it's time to upgrade. So the Jupiter Chiron gives you a really great chance to do that. Really great chance to do that. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Full moon, 24 degrees Taurus, exactly conjunct Uranus in the sign money, assets, resources, stability, family, tradition. The great changer is there. But let's talk about the full moon a little bit first, which moon versus sun, right? Opposite one another. The moon in Taurus versus the sun in Scorpio. The moon loves Taurus. It's exalted in Taurus. Why? Because it knows that it's really secure in Taurus. It's always going to get what it needs when it needs it. Taurus is a very rhythmic sign, just like the moon is very rhythmic. We watch that moon do the same thing every month, right? And Taurus is the sign of the earth and the rhythms of the earth. So they really vibe well together. The moon feels so secure in Taurus, knowing that, it's provided for, especially materially, and that its family is provided for, its loved ones, and even can take that out to its nation when it's feeling secure. Taurus is all like about wanting the stability. That's where the security of the emotions comes from, knowing that you're getting all your needs met for resources, right? But the sun in Scorpio is also a fixed sign, but it's in water. And it wants, instead of those resources for security, it wants emotional depth, the thing that Taurus is most fearful of. Emotional depth. The reason the Taurus is so into its physical resources and everything is it really doesn't like the dark, shadowy, emotional stuff. It leaves that to the other side of the zodiac with Scorpio, right? Taurus has a tendency to use all those material things, food, whatever it may be, as a security blanket against the darker, shadowy thoughts that exist. So, we sweep them under the rug, basically. But Scorpio's like, no way, man. Like, let's go down and down deep. Let's get to the bottom. Let's get to the crap. Let's get to the shadow. Let's actually get a real relationship going, not something that's based on some material, superficial thing. Let's find security like beyond even the physical, Let's find security that may be even timeless, right? But it's intense, it's passionate, it's dramatic, all the stuff that Taurus doesn't want to really deal with. So they can see what the problem is at this full moon, right? The tension, between these two signs. Taurus wants everything simple, but no, fixed emotions are really complex. You know, so it's just not an easy energy. And then all of a sudden, the moon lands right on Uranus in Taurus, which for the last 5, 6 years has been shaking up the economy up and down, all around. It's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad, it's good here, it's bad there. It's real quick, moving here, there, and everywhere, right? I warned you guys about this 5 years ago, that Uranus through Taurus was just going to be like the roller coaster of the economy. And this week, there may be some serious emotional shocks about our resources, our assets, our money, our possessions. Anything that we think is stable can really come under attack under this full moon and really emotionally shake that Taurus moon up. And whatever we think we're getting security in, especially on a material level, if we're ignoring a lot of the deeper signs and stories, what's going on underneath everything. People who like change, this is really exciting. It's like, okay, tear it all down, start again, people who are holding on to any part of tradition who think, like, oh, well, I can change a little bit of this, but I don't have to change that wrong. This thing's going to force change no matter what, right? It's going to force rapid change. We're going to see ourselves go to highs and lows over these next couple of weeks, emotional highs and lows. Changes that are really exciting and stimulating and get us really going and really zesty for life, and other changes that are like, oh my God, like the roof's caving in on me, right? And once again, in Taurus, I can't help but think it's really going to shake up the resources on us and show us how unstable resources are. Pleasant surprises or unpleasant surprises, lots of curiosity, lots of ability to use technology and science. But what about the events too, though, right? Full moon, where the gravity pull is the strongest, so we know that natural disasters are already more prevalent during full and new moons, right? And then we get Uranus, the ruler of natural disasters, conjunct this full moon. So, yeah, be ready for some of that. Taurus, Earth, could be very earth or land related or impacted, whatever those things could be. And Uranus is also this planet of rebellion. What is the reactions in society right now in the United States? What's going on? Like I just talked about the battle of the sexes thing already going on post-election, and the battle of mandates things going on. This could be really extreme. This could be people out in the streets. This can be like explosive events. This can be like the lone wolf. Yeah. So we're in for an interesting week. And then the same thing with you. Impulsive thinking. Making decisions you regret immediately. Saying things you regret immediately out of emotional insecurity for what you normally expect, and being dragged into a dark place on it. Now, we do have a couple things that I like about this full moon, and then another really stressful thing. First thing is the next two aspects are a sextile to Neptune and a trine to Pluto. And so the sextile to Neptune shows we could get into a very contemplative mood in relation to what we're seeing. That that we can like be like, wow, I need to pull back a little bit and take a look at this, figure out how I can fit that in with my ideals and everything, and find some peaceful place. So I think one of the things with this full moon would be to just take a little bit of space for yourself, get into whatever is a meditative, contemplative area for you, and just like calm yourself. Try to calm yourself a bit. And then the trine to Pluto shows that we can, like, if we can find people that have the intensity level of us, who are not afraid to look into the Scorpio stuff, the shadow and the dark side, that we can actually have some really intensely passionate connections with those people. Get really down deep, investigate, like go into places we haven't gone before and bring transformation to ourselves, and like maybe get out of this emotional funk by realizing we need to let go once again of some of these old ideals we're hanging on to allow transformation to come through, especially with Pluto just about to go into Aquarius too. It's like, can you leave the last vestiges behind? Can you? You know, but the other difficult thing about this is the ruler of this full moon is Venus, and I just told you how she went into a sign she's unhappy with, and she is square the nodal axis. So once again, I think this full moon is going to be like really, with many people, a dividing point of where they're just like, I am done with this person or this group. I just cannot be congruent with them anymore. I'm not willing to oblige them even. That, so this can get people very disagreeable, argumentative. It can end and terminate relationships and associations. So this is like a pretty heavy week all told, especially when you look at the relationship thing. And I can't help but think, being someone who's in the United States, and I'm an astrologer, so I'm just an observer. I have to be. Like, there is stress so high right now because of the post-election things going on, and there would have been no matter who won. That was my point when I said no matter what happens in this election, we're going to get the same results as the last time. Half the world, half the people distressed, and the other half the people like thinking they have a mandate, and neither does. And they're both part of the same collective unit. But this really shows the energy emotionally is really peaking to like a cracking point, a cracking point. Like where you have like, governors like trying to like, say that they, they're not going to allow change. I mean, who knows what this could lead to? And we've got next year is a very dangerous year coming up with the way the outer planets are aligning. So it's very hard, to see right now that, this mess is going to be gotten out of. But this week is really an apex, and it's going. There's no question it's going to spill over into your personal relationships. We're all part of that collective. And it's just unbelievable to me that Venus quincunx Mars and square the nodes and all this aligning this week shows you how potent astrology is at, showing how the energies of these situations are playing out, both collectively, and I'm sure you can take that right down to your individual level. All right, well, that's what I got for this week, you guys. It's not an easy one. Next week is really the beginning of the second part of the age of Aquarius coming in for good, and that's when Pluto goes into Aquarius the next 20 years. And, we'll talk about it again. I talked about it a lot in monthly. Go back to the monthly because that's really in the monthly too. I probably won't talk about it as much next week as I did in the monthly. But, we could have Mad Max World, or we could have technology save all of us. The choice is like collectively has to be made together. So we'll look at that. And the sun's going to go into Sagittarius next week too. So that's the other thing we'll take a look at, and some other things too. So, all right, once again, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Wings channel. I would really like you to become a follower. If you've got YouTube, please become a follower, and you are going to pass this link along right now to somebody else you know as payback for this. I'm like, you could give me $5 or so, or as much as you want. You can give me $105 too, to this Cash App or this Venmo, and every $5 you give enters you into a chance to win a free reading. Also, don't forget that all the vlogs are embedded on the website, and they're also available on podcasts. There's also an Instagram page. I would really love to do your chart or your friend's chart. If you're a professional, by the way, I do work with professional people on daily and weekly and monthly basis, which, I don't have a lot of detail on that on the website yet, but like get in touch with me if you're really into using astrology as a tool in your professional life, which of course spills over into your personal life too. But there's the email, matthew823@gmail.com, www.astrologicalwins.com, right? All right, thank you all. Remember, underneath everything is the unity. That's all I can keep telling you guys. I'm an observer and I see it all the time. I want you to see it too. All right, I'll see y'all next week, at least.